Hi everybody, Russ from My Hammers 11. Hope you're safe and well. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, hitting the bell icon so you're made aware of any time we put new content on. Today's video is brought to you by our channel sponsors, Untuck It. Check out the description below for all your t-shirt needs, and obviously they're designed to be worn untucked. So lots of different sizes and lots of Black Friday deals and stuff like that. So make sure you check them out and show them some love. Today's guest, I mean, his name's James Sneedon, but his Twitter handle's From the Anvil, so I'm surprised why he didn't put that on today. So, but it's all good. How are we doing, James? How are you, man?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. You'll notice we're obviously, people don't know, but obviously I'm recording. It's about 9 o'clock at night. James it's still in the afternoon because James is, despite his accent, he is in Canada at the moment. So, how is it over there at the moment? How's the weather and stuff, man?
Weather-wise, it's meant to get to that time of year where it's meant to start snowing, and it's meant to be dropping to minus temperatures. I think you're going to get that within the next month, and it's just a lot of shoveling the drive, being careful not to slip. You get that for about 6 months. We had a little bit of snow, but it's been pretty warm today. It's been like plus 13.
Oh wow, that's not too bad. That's relatively balmy for your neck of the woods at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah,
13 degrees, bloody hell. And apart from that, how's things obviously in this weird world we live in now for you at the moment?
COVID wise, here I could say it's a little better than the UK. I know that the UK is going back into full lockdown. I mean, my mum and my brother still live back home, and they've been saying it's coming. I'm being here right now. It varies where you are in the country. Where I am right now in Alberta, it's into a stage 2 phase. So things are still open for the most part, but it's still the same protocol of social distancing, masks, good hygiene.
Yeah, it is what it is, isn't it, man? But it's one of those things, isn't it? Just got to grin it and keep calm and carry on, as they say. But yes, it's all very interesting. And obviously, West Ham are doing all right at the moment, aren't we? We're doing all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than what I thought looking at that fixture list. I looked at the fixtures. I thought, we're playing a lot of top half teams there. Are we going to really take anything from this? And we've taken more than I'd expected, especially because West Ham fans, I think we're used to the team being in a relegation battle come this early point in the season anyway. Yeah. So to take these points in for the first few games is very pleasing. And the performances to go along with it as well have been better than expected. It's consistent for a ballpark term. It's organised. It looks like West Ham have a bit of a plan, which is something that we've lacked in a long time.
Yeah, exactly. It's I likened it to, everyone talks about a project. This seems like a project at the moment. Do you know what I mean? It's you can see there seems to be through the backroom staff, through the people Moyes is bringing in terms of playing staff. There seems to be a strategy in play now, which I can't remember for a long time there being one. Maybe even as long back as the Allardyce years, I'll be honest, just because there seems to be loads of you can see momentum's building, and you can see, when the club do all the training video, training like videos, behind the scenes stuff, there seems to be like loads of real togetherness, and everyone seems to be quite happy, which is quite unusual for West Ham players to be happy. And it's good to see. I think it's good to see. I'm all for it. I think it's going to be a good season for us this year. Good for us is obviously, being safe by like February will be good. But I'm encouraged, and obviously now's the biggest challenge. Those first 7 games were like hit or miss, 3 points. It's almost like a free hit. Now these next 3 are just like critical for us, I think, and obviously Villa are starting to dip a bit of form, and which is good because we were playing in a couple of games' time. Sheffield United are just off the planet at the moment.
Yeah, capitulating a bit.
Shadow of the team. It shows you. I think it really shows you the effect that a crowd has on the team, because they were obviously at Bramall Lane flying. It's intimidating ground.
Yeah.
Now it's not, and they're just getting a bit of second season syndrome. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, second season syndrome. I think that's what a lot of clubs do. I think they overachieve within one season, then go back down again. Sheffield United. Well, I'm actually from South Yorkshire. Sheffield United is technically my nearest Premier League team. I haven't been to Bramall Lane, but I have been to Hillsborough. But I've got a few friends that are Sheffield United fans, and they're saying the same thing. The team has got a good system in place at Sheffield United, but the thing is, it is, like I say, second season syndrome. They're a bit lost, as it were, this season. To go back onto your points about West Ham, we'll talk about all the strategy and everything. Oh yeah, like definitely. David Moyes, people have slated him in the past mainly because of his dodgy tactics and maybe his refusal to make subs, which I am going to acknowledge. But at the same time, he does say that he's got a plan in place for a long-term vision at West Ham. And so far, it seems to be paying off quite a bit because he's putting players into different positions and getting the best out of them. He did this with Arnautovic. He did it right now with Antonio. He's doing it, you could argue, with Fornals and Masuaku.
Yeah.
He's got them playing in something that suits them. And he's making a team that is moving on from the Pellegrini era. The Pellegrini era has a lot of time with a lot of what you could call luxury players, which they were, which doesn't suit Moyes' system. Moyes wants to bring in hard-working players naturally, and that suits the ethos of West Ham more. So I think Moyes understands the club's vision, he understands the club's background, and I think he wants to implement that his own way. So far, it seems to be paying off.
Yeah, because I mean, all intents and purposes, in terms of, with the exception of, say, Man United, all of Moyes' other clubs have all been these sort of working hard, like you got same. I mean, West Ham fans, same as Everton fans, they just want their team to press the North End. Even Sunderland, to all extensive purposes, obviously not as successful as his Everton days, but it's that same mantra, and it seems to be putting through. I've coined a phrase which I'm going to copyright called Moyesification. So and obviously every verb around that I've copyrighted now. So he's Moyesified Antonio into a striker, as you said, like he did Arnautovic, and as you said with Masuaku and Fornals, he's Moyesified them into a position which fits his system he wants to play. And so come January, it'll be interesting to see what he brings in. There's obviously talk of lots of players because there always will be talk of a lot of players.
I've seen a few today.
Yeah, and so we'll see what happens. I mean, frustrating thing was, obviously on Saturday, the Liverpool game, if we did have Josh King, he would have just fitted into that system nicely, same as Antonio. And so, we'll see what happens. But I'm quietly confident this year. I'm always the internal optimist, but like last few games, I've been sort of a bit more optimistic because it always looks like we're going to score. And I've lived through seasons where we've had no strikers, or we've had, bless them, people like Mike Newell up front and Brian Dean, bless them, and in their towards the end of their careers, and not looking going to score at all. We always seem to have a goal in us, whether it's a corner, a free kick, or a Souček coming in, and that's what I really think's exciting for us as fans. But now, James, obviously you're in Canada. You're from Yorkshire originally.
Yeah.
Why the hell are you a West Ham fan? What's your story, man?
All right, I've had to explain this to a few people actually. Like, how does somebody from South Yorkshire end up supporting a club from London? Well, first thing I always say is, like, how can people all across the world support Man United when they're not Manc?
Very true.
So that's my kind of thing. The story is actually as follows. I was trying to look for a club to support actually when I was around 10 years old, and it was like by a bit of a chance encounter. I was just in my dad's living room watching the West Ham Tottenham game from 2007. I still remember watching that live on his big plasma TV, and it was the game where Tevez scored that free kick off the crossbar, went mental, and I watched that and I was like, wow. So I kind of took an interest in the club from there and then onwards, and I think it's fair to say Tevez was the first West Ham player I really looked up to, especially within that last run-in. I remember, well, at the time, Sheffield United were in the Premier League as well, and it went to the last day of the season. And I remember Tevez scoring the goal. I was watching it on TV, him keeping us up at Old Trafford, and then only to join them a few weeks later. But that's how the whole West Ham thing really started. Got my first jersey when I was 12 years old. Still hadn't season ticket at Doncaster, which was my local club, and watched West Ham versus Doncaster there, but I was in the Donny stand, don't hate me for that. But Kevin Nolan scored in that game, and from then onwards I've just kept on supporting West Ham from there. I've got loads of jerseys, I've written blogs for the club's website, I've got my own channel and my own blog which I'm writing about the club as well, and just instead sharing on my knowledge with all of the fans, and that's pretty much what I do today.
Love it.
Yeah.
All because of Carlos Tevez.
Yeah.
If you hadn't scored that free kick, you might have been, if Tottenham had scored a free kick, and it was just, you could have been on the dark side, couldn't you, James?
It's
funny, there's so many times where we talk to people who've been fans for, 40, 50, 60 years, and it is things like that. It is a chance, they were in a room and Match of the Day was on and their dad said, what football team do you support? And they looked up and it was West Ham. That one, I support that one. And then they've been season ticket holders for 40 years and, all these little chance things. And it's lovely, particularly as you said, you're totally right. It's like, why do people across the world support Man United? Because they just do, but it's just unusual when it's West Ham. Do you know what I mean? Just because it's not, we don't win anything. So, that's why I love interviewing all the guys, particularly like the guys like the American Hammers Network, all those guys. And, we've had the Indian Hammers on and Scandinavian Hammers. And I just think it's such a global supporter base and it's incredible. That's why I love talking to people outside of London and outside of Essex. Do you know what I mean? Because it just proves my point that we've got a huge sort of base of fans, and obviously you're on Twitter and you sort of look at and they're all even more so now. They're all sort of pulling together, obviously, particularly in the UK, obviously that we go into a second lockdown very shortly, and mental health and all that type of stuff, and everyone seems to be pulling together really nicely and supporting each other. People being open enough to reach out to say, feeling a bit down today, and then like 10 minutes later they'll tweet again. I've just had like 300 messages from people saying chin up and stuff like that. And West Ham fans are unique. I think we're a unique bunch.
I think that's very true. West Ham fans are their own kind because they just it's the old East End thing, I think. And I'm not a natural East Ender myself, but I know I've seen what the club. The fans are just so together. Really, they're just a bunch of Cockneys who really love the team, and I think they're just. It's the working class thing as well, because the West Ham traditionally being a working class club, the fans have just come from normal, hard-working backgrounds, and they just support a team that was for many years representing those values. And it's just, I think the club chooses the fans. I think in West Ham's case particularly, and that's what you can see when you're on Green Street and even just in general.
Yeah, no, you're right, and it's when you get sort of interviewed like lots of people from who've you interviewed like West Ham, Philly, and obviously Philadelphia. There was like she was like naturally drawn towards West Ham because similar as you said, sort of blue collar backgrounds and stuff like that. And and who was it? Oh, I think it was Fresno Irons. I can't remember if it was Tex
or California.
I think it was Tex. No, it wasn't Tex. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, I forgot his name, but I apologise. I've had over 250 people, so I'm allowed to forget one.
So good.
And he became a West Ham fan because of Gary Oldman in the firm, and but it's all these. I love it, and then that's it. They're hooked, and the Fresno Irons are absolute nutters. They are crazy, so crazy. Yeah. They would go if it was West Ham Chelsea and it was at Stamford Bridge. They would go to the Chelsea bar at Fresno because it's an away game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't have that here. I'm in Edmonton right now, my city. My nearest fan base is in Vancouver. And when I was there, I tried to find it, but I couldn't. I've met two people here in my city that actually know what West Ham is. One had a jersey on and was a Cockney. The other one was a server in a bar. Said, yeah, I know West Ham because my dad's from Basildon.
I love it. But that happens all the time. Do you know what I mean? For me, it always seems to happen. Like, it's not as dramatic as living as you said in Canada and bumping into someone whose dad is from Basildon. But like we went camping the other day, and the guy next to us in the tent, we got chatting, and he was like, I said, where are you from? He goes, oh, we're from. He said, I'm from London. And I was like, okay, we're in London. Well, I live near where the West Ham team train. Well, that's Rush Green. That's like 10 minutes away from my house, mate. That's not really London. I live in Hornchurch. He went, oh, okay. He tries to do the whole I'm from London, but you're really from Essex, mate. Bless you. But it happens all the time. There's West Ham fans everywhere. You meet, you bump into, you met two, and that's probably two. That's fair enough, isn't it? I always like going away because if there's a West Ham fan in like somewhere, I always end up talking to him somehow. I don't know why. Maybe it's because literally, I literally on holiday live in West Ham shirts around the pool. Or oh god, I remember that when we used to be able to go on holiday. Oh, that was a happy.
I did it
time.
in Vegas.
Did you?
Yeah. Well, I started playing Arsenal that day, so I thought I might as well represent.
Too right. I mean, you got John Black. He's a Vegas Hammer, and there's loads of them, and they're all over the place, man. It's like it's really opened my eyes up to how global our fan base is, because I was a bit naive to it, to be honest. And then we've been doing this for 5 months now. As I said, we've been talking to people all over the world about West Ham, and there's still loads more people to talk about all over the world. New Zealand and Australia and places like that, and it's brilliant. I actually love it.
Yeah.
Right. So why are you in Canada, James? What's your story? Why are you in Canada?
Okay, well, I live here actually with my dad, and like I mentioned, my mum and my brother still live in the UK. I've done 1 year of secondary school over here. I've done university over here as well. I graduated this year, actually.
Cool.
I initially did a journalism degree because I wanted to get into sports broadcasting, and then I went and did proper broadcasting, as in more practical minded stuff, and graduated from that this year. And the reason why I wanted to go into sports is because I think in North America in particular, it's definitely going to be a big industry. You have a wide variety of different professional sports. In Canada, it's not necessarily football/soccer, depending on what you call it, but I think the main ones here is mainly ice hockey and probably the NBA, but it's still a very big market. I think soccer in Canada, just so I'm clear on what I'm talking about, is a growing sport with Alphonso Davies and Asmir Begovic, people like that who are here in Canada. Both of them actually grew up in my city as well. Begovic went to the high school next to mine and was in the soccer academy there. But as well, I think because that's a growing sport here in Canada, and me being British and someone who is, I think, stereotypically from a country that's very familiar with the sport, I would think I could just offer something here with it. I've looked for a few jobs actually within sports writing, but for now, I think my main focus is to just build up the profile. Hence why I'm doing my YouTube channel, blogging, and writing wherever I can. And that's going from there.
Yeah, and you're right. It's one of those things where, having an English accent, having a British accent does help open doors sometimes, doesn't it? Really, particularly. I mean, I used to do loads of work over in the States, and it was almost like not a novelty act, but I'd like turn up and they'd be like, oh, and for some reason I became more Cockney, because they always thought I was from Australia, and so I became even more Danny Dyer. And it's like,
did it with me.
Yeah, I used to hate it because I used to get really like dial it to 11. But and it's true when you go and see like I don't know, like obviously all the NBC coverage and stuff like that, and guys like Warren Barton and Robbie Mustoe, and obviously Shaka's over there, and and it does, I would never have put Robbie Mustoe and Warren Barton as lead anchormen or analysts, and they made a career out of it over there and stuff like that. And so good luck to you, man. Good luck to you.
Thanks.
As you said, it's all good stuff, and particularly now with in this sort of weird world we live in, it's all about people putting their head above the parapet, really, isn't it? As you said, doing content, making YouTubes, writing blogs. There's a thirst for it at the moment, obviously, because particularly soon we'll have all the studios will be shut again, so there'll be no live or regular television coming up. So things like YouTube and stuff like that is going to be back to we started this channel in lockdown 1.0, I call it. Now we're going to lockdown 2.0. And it was just because of a thirst for people were just wanting to talk about old stuff and reminisce, and it's lovely, man. But do you remember your first? Obviously, you said that was obviously Tevez, that Tottenham game. Do you remember your first game properly? When you're like,
it's my only one today. It was West Ham versus Hull in 2010 at the Bowling Ground.
Brilliant.
I remember the game. Barami, Carlton Cole, and Junior Stanislas scored in that game. Gianfranco Zola was the manager, and I think the only one player that's still obviously going to be there from then was Mark Noble. But I still remember that team from then. It was just everything about like West Ham, from the train journey there on the tube, even on the way home, things like that. I just remember walking through like Plaistow and just seeing a second-hand shop made of corrugated iron and just laughing at that. Like, this is what it's like. Didn't have pie and mash or anything like that, but there was a market opposite the Bowling Ground that I remember. Saw David Gold's car in there. I was in, I think it was the Trevor Brook in Upper.
Yeah,
it was cracking day out.
Yeah, it is. It was a special place. London Stadium's good as well, but Upson Park has been around for so long that it has this sort of nostalgic. People still think of it lovingly, and too right so. It was like there for many years, but no, it's good, man. As you said, once you see the game, that's it, you're hooked. But he was already 3 years into your West Ham journey already, so it was just helping you take it over the sort of the what's the word? Oh, my mind's gone to mush anyway. Ignore me. We'll carry on. Right, so let's talk about your 11, James. So as I said, the only rule is you have to be alive to have seen them play. That's the only rule. You don't have to have seen them play live, because then you'd only have seen one game, so it'd been quite easy. But being alive to see play, that's it. You can do whatever formation, you can talk about whatever people, whatever context. Could be favourite, could be best, cult heroes, worst players, whatever. James,
yeah, it's been a difficult choice actually. Some of these positions, I was thinking,
what do I do? Yeah, I know.
I mean, yeah.
Right, okay, let's start in goal, James. Who is in goal for the James 11?
The James, so from the under 11, we'll go. I had a difficult decision with this one because I couldn't choose, but I eventually went with Rob Green because he was the goalkeeper that I was most familiar with throughout my time as a West Ham supporter. Not only that, he was number one for many, many years, got a few England call-ups. I liked him.
Yeah, no, he's a good player, good man, and just obviously we've had a lot of former players interview, and they all talk about Robert Green in terms of just how workmanlike he was in terms of his training. He was like an exceptional trainer, and it really paid dividends. As you said, he was very consistent. Again, we say it quite often, goalkeeper's a position, apart from probably about 6 months last season, that we haven't had a problem with. Do you know what I mean? We always have a good goalkeeper, sometimes better than others, but a solid. But we haven't really had a apart from the Roberto months. What could have been if Fabianski hadn't got injured? Pellegrini may well still be in charge.
Well, that's it's whole team dynamic as well. I mean, Roberto was absolutely shocking, I must admit. Every time I saw on the team sheet, my stomach sank, and I was thinking, not again.
You could see the confidence drain out of the players. And when Fabianski was back, they seemed to be re-energized again. It's incredible. I never realized how integral a goalkeeper is, but it really does make so then obviously the centre-backs have more confidence in the goalkeeper. The midfield have more confidence in the centre-backs because they're more confident because the goalkeeper, and it filters through the team. It's mental. But Greeno, good guy, lovely trainer, doesn't take himself too seriously on Twitter and stuff. And I like people who are just a realist. He's realistic, he's like, he knows what he was. And the fact that he still takes the piss out of Chelsea, has it in his profile that he won the European Cup. And it's like, come on, Rob. But, he still did it.
Still did it anyway.
All right, we'll put Greeno in. Are we playing a back four, James?
Yeah, we're going 4-4-2.
Oh, nice and simple.
I'm a traditional 4-4-2 kind of person.
Good. Right, left back. Who's going to be left back then, James?
Okay, we're stuck on this one. I didn't know who, but eventually I went with Terminator, Julian Dicks.
Yeah, Dixie.
Had to be Julian Dicks. Aggressive tackler, absolute unit of a player, and a good penalty taker as well. Also, very much loved around the club. Came back with Slaven Bilic, who worked as a coach under him. Joined him at West Bromwich Albion. He's always got a place at West End United.
Yeah, he does. You're right, and he's just a nice bloke as well, by all accounts. And he's like, and what I think about Julian is he's just relatable. Do you know what I mean? He's like, he's not like a primed. I can't think of words, but like the footballers now, they're just all just pretty boys, really, aren't they? Really, and it's like where Julian is like a bloke who you could just see down the pub. I mean, he'd be at the pub, propping the bar up, and he's a top bloke, top guy.
Top.
Okay, we'll put Julian in. Let's go right back then, James. Who are we going to have on the other side, mate?
Right back was another tough decision because I had a choice between Zabaleta, Fredericks, and Tomkins, and just because I was familiar the most, I went with James Tomkins.
Nice, yes. James Tomkins doesn't get enough recognition in these things, and I think it's a terrible shame because he was a great servant to us, and I think Tomkins was, and for me, he is well. I'd have him back tomorrow. I think in the gap between him being sold and us getting someone like Zabaleta and even Fredericks, we struggled with the right back situation because we've been crying out for a good right back. We didn't get it in Sam Byron, we couldn't get it in Arbeloa, so Tomkins is definitely the one. And he's a West Ham Academy graduate, one of our best. He is. And it just shows you when you have to put a centre back into right back position that actually, it's an area which we needed some investment in. And luckily, with Kufal, at least that he looks a solid right back, he looks solid. So, but I think I like old JT. He's a good bloke, and as you said, a West Ham boy. And it's one of those things when it's always great in hindsight. So like the whole thing of getting rid of Adrian to bring in Roberto and David Martin seemed like a good idea. It made sense. 2 for 1. We could send the kids out on loan, and that's good. And we got a cold. Then obviously there's an injury, and in hindsight, maybe we shouldn't have got rid of Adrian. Same as James Tomkins. I think as soon as he left, I think we had about 2 or 3 like defensive injuries where he would have clearly played probably most of that season. Then,
Antonio was going as right back.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's another thing. Put Antonio right back. Let me look at him now compared to where we put him. Right. Okay. JT is in centre backs. First centre back. James, who we got, man?
Okay, this wasn't hard. Winston Reid, just because he has earned himself as one of the best West Ham defenders, certainly of my generation, and one of best players in the last, I'd say, 10, 15 years at West Ham. He's had a really bad injury-ridden first season with us, built himself up in the Championship, and since then he was a starting centre-back. Scored a few goals when needed, scored the last ever goal at the Bowling Ground, so that's obviously why he's going to go down in folklore as well. Yeah. And that is on loan at Sporting Kansas City. I do kind of miss him a little bit, because I do like Reedy.
And he seems to be playing, he's played the last half dozen games or something like that. I think he's done all right at Sporting Kansas at the moment. I think
he scored a goal for him.
Scored, yeah, and I think, but I think he's back in. I think he may be back in January. I think his loan runs out in January, so we'll see. Maybe we'll get him back. Maybe I'd love to see him back. I just think he just, as you said, a fit Winston Reid is brilliant, and I think nowadays we've got 3 good centre backs, and then they sort of interchange. So it's almost like when one gets injured, the others sort of step up. And so, like at the moment, Issa Diop's not getting a look in really with the 2, and with Balbuena and obviously you're not getting in front of Oggy and Cress is playing all right at that sort of left sort of centre 3, and but then I remember when. When Balbuena came in, it was Balbuena and Diop, and Oggy couldn't get a look in. And then last season, it was Oggy and Diop, and Balbuena didn't get a look in. It's like it's this sort of revolving door of centre backs at West Ham, and I just wouldn't mind seeing Winston Reid. Obviously, we've still got Craig Dawson. We forget about Craig Dawson. He's there, bless him. And I still think that's why we only got him on loan and we didn't buy him. So I've got, to kick. The assumption is, Willie could come back and he would make a big difference. But then there's talk of us getting this Swedish guy in January for like $1 million. Who's this young Swedish international?
I think he's already signing the deal.
Yeah, I think he's literally like in the hotel now.
He is,
signing. So fair play. So, but. That'd be cool, and then we still got guys like Alessi. He looks really good. And the young, and there's, we're. I think people have moaned about our squad size and stuff, and I think experience-wise potentially, but the kids are good, man. We've got some good kids coming through. You saw that whole game and the Charlton game. I mean, I love the boy Ashby, the right back. He's going to be good. He's going to be good. He's been playing well for the under-21s at Scotland as well, and he just looks really. When players walk on a pitch, it's like when you used to play when you was a kid, and when the other team would turn up, and like some of them are like, he looks like he's a good football player. He looks good, and then Ashby has that look about him, and maybe he's got the bow legs already or whatever, but he looks solid. I think he's going to be a good one for us next season. Okay, who's Winston Reid going to partner in the centre back positions? Then
I actually went for Matthew Upson on this one.
Matthew Upson, interesting.
I know it's an interesting choice, but again, he's another player I was very familiar with just in my early days of supporting West Ham. Did quite like him a lot. He got called up to the England's 2010 World Cup squad.
Yeah. I think we had that 2010 World Cup squad. I think we had Tony Carr on, and we figured it out. And I believe a third of the 2010 World Cup squad had gone through the academy at West Ham.
Oh yeah, Ferdinand Lampard, players like that. Yeah,
John Terry.
West Ham Academy.
Mental, isn't it? When you think about that, God, if only. But that is being a West Ham fan. It is if only because we've never won anything. It's always like this sliding doors moment.
Yeah,
if he stayed, if Pyatt hadn't got injured, this could happen. And I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, as your back 4, and Greeno, let's go into midfield. Then James, let's go left wing, left midfield. Who have we got?
Left midfield. I just looked at the winger in general for this one, and the one that only came to mind was Trevor Sinclair.
Ah, good old Trev.
Had to be good winger, very dynamic kind of player. Good at getting down the sides and score goals when needed. Teamed up well with PDC and Canute.
Yeah, good player, solid player, and
yeah, definitely.
You know, you say about Upson, got him to 20. I mean, we resurrected Trevor's career. Really, he was sort of floundering a bit at QPR, and he came in and just was brilliant and loves the club. I mean, his interactions on Twitter and stuff. He's top bloke, and friend of the channel. He's also Trev, so big fan of his. And he just right player at the right time. And someone mentioned it. Yes, I can't really mention it. I was interviewing the other day, and they mentioned Trevor Sinclair's shirts, and I went back and looked at it afterwards. He always wore these stupidly oversized shirts. So you go back and look at him when he was playing for West Ham. He had these shirts like untucked, almost like you can't see his shorts. He had these like bingo wings on his arms because his arms were so big. It's funny. You're thinking if he had like a decent fitted shirt, he'd have gone even faster, bless him. But yes, Trevor Sinclair, top bloke and a top player for us at that time. That was my favourite era in terms of my West Ham career. That sort of Harry Redknapp era. I just think it was so exciting as a player and so exciting as a team as well because you didn't know what was going to happen.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right, so Trevor is in. Who is next? You go through the rest of that midfield as you want to, James.
Okay. So we're going to start with the centre mids next, and this wasn't so tough. I went for two leaders and two very well respected members of the club as of recent years. My first one, I'm going for Kevin Nolan.
Kevin Nolan, that is a good shout.
I think,
not a lot of recognition. I don't think.
I'd agree with that. I don't think he gets a lot of recognition. The thing with Kevin Nolan is he seemed to follow Sam Allardyce everywhere in his career. So Nolan coming to West Ham when Allardyce was appointed seemed kind of a right thing to do because he could work with a manager who he knew, he was familiar with, who he respected, and could get the best out of him no matter where they went. And Kevin Nolan as well, goal scorer, good part of that midfield, good at holding up the ball, and served as a good captain for a few years.
Great captain, I think, and I think he was he was that sort of stabilizing presence that we needed in the team at the time. Because it was like, a lot of turmoil. Obviously, we'd gone down and stuff like that. And, and then Big Sam came in, and obviously you sort of knew Kevin was going to come in as well. But he was a really, really good captain. And I think, again, we haven't had problems in the modern day with good captains. We've had him and people like, obviously, Nobes and people like, Lucas Neal. All beginning with N.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. Right. Nolan is in. Who is next?
Mark Noble has to be.
Yeah, as soon as I said Noble, I said he's probably going to be the next one, so I thought I'd shut up.
Right. Definitely. If you're a West Ham fan, you got to respect Mark Noble. There's like no two ways about that.
You have to, man. I think he transcends football, doesn't he? I think everyone respects Mark Noble in the game because of just his longevity. They did a thing the other day, and it was the leagues, and each league with the longest serving player.
Yeah,
and him Messi almost identical times. I think it was exactly the same in terms of how many years, how many months, how many days they've been in their respective leagues, and top bloke, and he top draw.
Yeah, he's just the top bloke. The way he represents West Ham as well on and off the field's really good. You can tell he's why he's a good captain. He's someone that actually, if you're going to have a captain, you need someone who knows the core value of the club. He's been there since he was 13 years old. He knows everything about the club. It's just logical to have him as captain.
Yeah, and he's just like, and there's something special. It's something which is quite unusual, is to have a fan play in your team. Doesn't happen now very often, and he's unfortunately a dying breed. But there's something special. When his name is on the team sheet or it's on the bench and he comes on, he's gonna. If we lose, it's gonna hurt just as much for him as it is for us because he's a fan as well. But you can't fault the fact he's not going to put his effort in and have a go. Do you know what I mean? And that's what he does, man. And that's why I really respect him as a player and as a fan and as a captain. I think he's a great captain, and we've had lots of fun with him. Okie dokie. So Mark Noble. Okay, we've got one more midfielder then. Who's it going to be then, James?
Okay, I really like him right now, Jarrod Bowen.
Jarrod Bowen. Yes, nice. Why not? Why not?
Why not? I think he's an ideal kind of winger for really any team. He's shown himself in the Championship, capable of what he was doing. A little bit of a bump coming back into the Premier League on a full-time basis because he was there with Hull, played 7 appearances for them. He was coming to West Ham on a full-time basis, starting in the Premier League. So that was going to be a real test for him jumping up from the league. Ben Rama was going to face that same test as well. Bowen's taken that really well. He's shown why he's a valuable starter. And I like everything about Jarrod Bowen, the fact that not only his pace, which is a natural asset for a winger, but the way he's able to cut inside in the box, he's able to take the time and the vision to make his shots as well. Him going down on that right is the box-to-box winger that we've needed for a long time, and we've got him.
Good point. That's a really good point. You're right. And what I like about him, I mean, as you said, he sort of, I mean, towards the end of last season, arguably him and Souček were the players of our team, really, which is quite impressive because then he came in January. He sort of hit the ground running, and I think this season he just kicked on. He's definitely kicked on. You can tell he's a lot more confident, and it can't be long before he gets a call up. Do you know what I mean? It's like, him and Antonio, I just can't see why they don't have a call up there. You know what I mean? It's just... I just think Bowen is just like you're right. He's that sort of. We haven't had a proper winger since probably Matty Etherington. Because Antonio played all over the place. So I don't really class him as a winger now. But yeah, Matty Etherington, and he's a proper winger. But as you said, as well as having the ability to go down the right and get across, and he can cut inside. He can have a shot. He does that great little diagonal run behind the back too, which he scored like a couple of goals like this season with as well. And that's what he's best known for. I mean, obviously, when you hear about a player coming, you do the YouTube, don't you? You Google on YouTube. No, you search on YouTube to look at all the highlight clips. And he scored loads of goals like that cut inside and just drifted in. And I think he's great. Absolutely great player. And again.
I know, Souček and Bowen, as you just mentioned there, the thing is with them, they are like very typical Moyes signs because they are people who we don't really hear a lot about them. They didn't cost tons as far as money's concerned, but they're still putting a lot of graft and they're flourishing.
Yeah, you're right. And again, you couldn't fault Bowen's industrialism. He carries on working. He's a very workmanlike attitude. He just keeps on going, keeps plugging away, won't stop running, will help out the defense as well, almost as like an auxiliary right back sometimes, to be honest, to his detriment, I think, to be honest. I'd like to see him be a little bit more selfish, because it's great that he helps out, but I think then when we counter-attack, we can tend to be a little bit slow because it tends to be like Fornals out there. He's not particularly quick. He's not like a rapper. I mean, Bowen can be, when he gets going, Bowen's rapid. And so, I wouldn't mind him being a little bit more selfish with his positional sense, but at the moment it's working. So if it don't break, don't, it's not broken, don't fix it. But that's just my preference. Okay. Let's put Bowen there. Okay. Up front, we've got 2 strikers. Who's your first striker then, James?
Okay, because I mentioned him already, I'm going to put respect on Carlos Tevez because he's the reason why I started supporting West Ham.
Yeah. If he wasn't in, I'd be surprised.
Yeah, it took ages to bloom, but he was pivotal in keeping West Ham in the Premier League.
Yeah,
and he scored.
Crazy. It's crazy when you look at him. Someone did a little Google, checked Wikipedia, and he didn't play a lot of games for us, did he? But he had an incredible impact for so few games, and as you said, it took him a while to get there. And obviously that Tottenham game, that was when he became Carlos Tevez in West Ham,
when he bloomed.
Exactly, when he bloomed, exactly. And it's almost like a loaf of bread he was waiting to prove, and it took him a while to prove. It wasn't it wasn't particularly warm dough. The yeast wasn't very active. It's just me and my lockdown baking head coming back on again. I know, God, dear, it's like I did scones on Sunday just to warm myself back up into all the bacon again. Oh God, yeah, I love a bit of bacon. But with Tevez, I mean, I remember before he scored that goal, he was so unlucky. It was like, he'd hit the bar, he'd hit the crossbar, it'd just go wide, and he'd want to do everything. And then Kerbesley did very similar to like Moyes has done, just like stay up front, just don't run about. You stay there and don't move, And from then on, he was just this Rottweiler of a player, and we just took to him, didn't we? And again, he brought in the no one had done that for about 20 years.
How can a player does that?
Exactly. He hadn't done it. No one had done that for 20 years, and he brought this back. And playing for Man United, he did it, and it was like I've never seen a player come back from playing for an opposition and having such a response from the fans. It was absolutely mental, and he obviously, he kept us up, and then as you said, like 3 or 4, whenever it was, weeks later, he went to the team that he'd scored against. But and he still says that, I think he's 36 now, and he did an interview a couple of months ago, and he said the only team he'd come back to Europe for was West Ham.
Yeah.
So, okay, fair enough.
He's left quite an impression on some of our Argentinian players. Lanzini wanted to aspire to be like Tevez.
Yeah. It's true. It is absolutely true. And he apparently, obviously, we've interviewed lots of players who played around that time for West Ham, asking them, what was it like? You turn up to work at Chadwell Heath and these 2 Argentinian internationals just turn up at the door, almost like they kicked them out the Uber and just left them at the front door. And because they looked a bit like they'd been kidnapped, didn't they? And they sort of like they'd Alan Pardew over the top, like, oh my God, what's going on here?
Where'd these come from?
Yeah, and they looked a bit like, where's this? Where are we? Sorry. We've got to turn left at the Moby Dick pub to go to Chadwell Heath. Yeah, you do. But apparently they were both trying to really integrate themselves. Tevez particularly with the players, and Anton tells the story about when they were in a nightclub, and Tevez would literally bring his interpreter everywhere he went because he wanted to know what was going on and be involved in the banter. And he would be on the dance floor in some London nightclub with his interpreter, talking to Anton Ferdinand via his interpreter while still dancing on the, that type of thing. And I love stories like that. He's a mental, absolutely mental. But no, he was a top guy for us. And as you said, he has a lasting impression. Very similar. He's like someone like Winston Reid will always be a West Ham legend because of the goal, as you said, against the Bowen, and obviously he scored against Tottenham and Millwall, and same as Tevez. That goal at Man United will make him a legend forever. So God bless him. Okay, Carlitos is in. There's one more spot, James. Who is that spot going to, man?
Okay, it's obviously PDC. Paolo Di
PDC
Canio has to go in there. They're not just that goal against Wimbledon, but it's just the player himself. He was, as a striker, a very disciplined kind of striker. He took no nonsense, and even in his later years as a manager, due to mainly his political beliefs and just who he was as well, he just kept a lot of players grounded. He did it at Swindon, did it at Sunderland. People even said they wanted Di Canio to be West Ham manager because he'd kick the players up the butt.
Yeah, I'm always, I think it'd be nice players. I think it'd be a nice idea on paper. Do you know what I mean? I think it'd be nice idea on paper to have Paolo as manager. I think we wouldn't have a squad by the end of the month because he's so passionate that I think unless you're that passionate, it'd rub players up the wrong way. And but yeah, he's just he's absolute crackers, isn't he? He's absolutely and that's why we love him.
If he were manager, I think there'd be like, if players left shell shocked after he's yelled at them, stuff like that. Probably a few bruises and a few dead silent.
Yeah, well, it's true, and I think for him, I think it's he would, he just got a bit like Carlos Tevez, but even more so, he just got the fans, and the fans got him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
they were very much in together. They, he still has his West Ham, tattoos, and was singing Bubbles and stuff like that during lockdown. And I just think he's just a great guy and entertaining, just an entertainer. And he's one of these sort of, and again, I moan about it every time I do an interview, but a video, but I get really frustrated with modern football because I just find most of the players, not all the players, most of the players quite boring. Like personality wise, they're so uber professional. You get entertained by them doing Rabonas and flicks and tricks, but football should be about entertainment. It's a sport, but it isn't entertainment. We don't pay to watch a team win. Clearly, we back the wrong horse if that's the case. But we want to be entertained, and someone like Paolo would entertain you, whether it would be with a Rabona or a bit of skill or having a tantrum on the pitch,
Many
or
times.
having on the song, and it just fitted so well with West Ham, and I just think he was absolutely fantastic, and my most favourite player. He just really was. I just thought he was absolutely brilliant, and as you said, what you're going to get with him as well. We actually didn't know what he's going to get. He's unpredictable, and I think that's why we sort of turn up every day, every game to watch him, because you didn't know which Paolo was going to turn up. And then obviously you'll find out within 15 minutes whether he's up for it, or it's going to be one of those Paolo days where you're just going to laugh at him for throwing tantrums and throwing himself on the floor and wanting to get substituted and stuff like that. But that's why we love him, because he was entertaining, but he was a top bloke as well. And obviously we've had loads of stories about their interactions with Paolo, and just brilliant, just so funny. He's top bloke. And that's it, James, and that's it. That is it. That is a very, very good side. I like that. It's very nice, well balanced, as I said. And Carlos and Di Canio up front. It'd be fair to say we're playing it more on the floor, wouldn't we? We wouldn't wouldn't go for the Antonio lump and leave it. We'd be playing it on the floor, but we like to play it on the floor. We're the West Ham way, aren't we? So that's what we do. James, man, it's been lovely chatting to you, mate. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, and obviously check James out. He's on from the Anvil, Twitter, YouTube, all that type of good stuff, and go over and have a look at some of his he does his post matching stuff and things like that as well, don't you? It's quite cool.
Yeah, mate. Do previews, I do weekly questionnaires. I do a lot of other things as well.
Brilliant. So make sure you go over there, because we're gonna need as much content to get us through this next month as possible at the moment. So it's all good stuff. And from myself and James, take care, everyone. Stay safe. If you're watching on YouTube, like, share, subscribe. If you listen to it on Spotify, Podcast, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Alexa, play My Hammers 11. It's gonna work. It's gonna work one day, isn't it? It's gonna work one day. I'll get one listener because of it. Whoever it is, make sure you wash your hands. Stay safe, everyone. For me and James, stay well. Come on, you irons, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Take care, everyone.